Words of Wisdom with Adam Carriker.
Hey, Chuck, I was just wondering, you ever got in a hot air balloon, floated it towards space, say, 24 miles in the air, and then just jumped out of it? Me neither. You all right? You know what I'm talking about?
I'm good.
There's a rumor going around that a guy did that.
Well, the guy's crazy. That's what he is.
I completely concur. I'm sweating here just thinking about it.
And on that note, we welcome you to Fourth and Pain, the only pro wrestling show to be hosted by an NFL player and
Howdy.
the weight loss champion. He's Redskins defensive end Adam Carriker. I am said weight loss champion Chuck Carroll, and neither one of us are dumb enough to go up 24 miles in a balloon and do what? Oh, just jump out for the sake of jumping out.
Now, you were telling me this before the show, that the guy got in the balloon, went up 24 miles, and you were telling me he had to be like a legit astronaut suit because his blood could boil and because there's no oxygen. And so it's like, my first question is this. Why? Why would somebody do this?
Because he's like one of those adrenaline junkie types. Come to find out, he jumped from I think 90,000 feet earlier this year, and a height a little bit less than that. He's been working his way up to this. He's one of those guys like Richard Branson that just has, I guess, all of this money in the world. And well, what am I going to do now? Well, let's just do some stupid stuff, including going up into space, essentially getting in a hot air balloon 24 miles up and jumping out of it.
I'm sorry, this just conjures up so many questions. Like I've always wondered, astronauts, they go on the moon. Let's say for some reason sometimes things don't work. Maybe their astronaut suit doesn't work. What happens? Do they just float away into the Milky Way galaxy? I mean, can they breathe? What happens?
Well,
I'm curious.
You have a limited amount of oxygen that's, in your suit. Like this guy had 10 minutes of oxygen in his suit once he jumped out. He had a ton of oxygen with him in the balloon, like a number of hours worth. But in the suit, his tanks had 10 minutes worth. And so I imagine with an astronaut, maybe on their suits, they have probably a couple hours worth. But hey, if you're floating out into space, man, you're screwed.
What if it doesn't work, though? What if their suit just stops working? Let's just say, I'm sure they have ways of fixing it, and there's a warning, and let's just say none of that works. It just stops working. Do they just float away and their blood's boiling and they implode from the inside out?
Yeah, it's a quick death.
Is that how that
works? It's a quick
works?
and painless death.
I would
hope it's painless.
Doesn't sound painless.
Well, for the sake of this show, we're going to call it painless because I don't want to think about the alternate.
What about this hot air? I'm just seriously, dude. I'm enamored with this. What about this hot air balloon? Is it now floating forevermore? I mean, does it explode?
Well, the helium isn't going to. Well, actually, see, here's the cool thing. Here's where science comes in. It gets to a point in the atmosphere where the helium will no longer go up. So it kind of leveled off around 127,000 feet and wouldn't rise anymore, despite the fact that, there's still as much helium in it as there was when he was on the ground.
So is it just forevermore floating there, or does it come back
Well,
down?
it'll come down because eventually
Really?
the helium leaks out and it'll be kind of like a slow descent. It's not going to jump. Here's the other thing about this guy. I haven't even told you. You know what his intent with this jump was?
Suicide?
To be the first man to break the sound barrier in a free fall.
Did he?
I don't believe he broke the sound barrier. I don't know if he did. I know that he set the record for the farthest height to jump from. This guy was in a free fall. A free fall.
How long?
For over 4 minutes. Wow. A complete free fall, man.
You know my wife. She does the Peyton Pulse. And she jumped out of an airplane at 10,000 feet. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
We actually have video. We have to show you sometime. And I think the free fall was maybe 40 seconds or something of that nature. But it's just, I went up on the plane with this little rinky-dink plane. It's like a 4-seater, and I'm cramped in there, so there goes 2 seats. And she jumps out. It's just like one of the craziest things I've ever seen. I far exceed the weight limit. Darn, I can't do it. But, it just boggles my mind that this individual did that. I don't know what it has to do with wrestling or football, but it's just extremely interesting to me.
I'd be curious to ask your wife why. Why would you jump out of a perfectly good airplane?
That's my dad's question to her.
Right?
She just loves it. She wants to go bungee jumping. She's never really said base jumping, however. Obviously, she wants to jump out of an airplane, which she did. But she actually wants to do it again. She had an instructor strapped to her. She wants to do it by herself. You have to take it's like a 10-hour course and all these training things. But she wants to do it by herself. Like, she just loves this type of stuff. And I am the exact, seriously, I'm sweating and I'm getting a little red just thinking about it.
She's a little adrenaline junkie, is she?
She is, and I am the exact opposite. I'm going to tell this story. I'm going to tell this story because it's pretty funny. You can edit it out if you'd like, or you can leave it in here.
Oh, wow.
Chuck does all the editing. He does all the manual labor. I just show up with my pretty face. So I'm in the plane with her, and this is a tiny little airplane. So we're floating. I'm sorry, on the radio, you can't see my hand. That's why you got to go to Fourth and Pain and watch the podcast. So we're floating like this. This is the airplane, see? And so my thumb is where I'm sitting, and my pinky is where her and the instructor are sitting. They open the door, and they jump out. So they jump out. My pinky's her jumping. Immediately, bam, the plane does this. Because the pilot decides, he didn't tell me this till we landed. He didn't tell me we were going to do this. Oh, I should back up a little. They made me put on a parachute. As they're giving it to me, they're like, I'm like, well, what do I need to know? They're like, you just have to wear it by law, and they gave me no instructions whatsoever. So back to this open door and this plane that is now staring straight. I'm now like this, and I'm staring straight through this open door at 10,000 feet. Thinking, oh my God, I'm going to die. And I didn't even buckle myself in because I did not know this was going to happen. And I don't know how to do this parachute. And the pilot is now circling so I can, in his words, later on after I had done screaming like a little girl, watch my wife fall. And I am just freaking out. I'm screaming. I do not like heights, and I do not like extreme deep water. And so finally he levels the plane out. And then he turns off the engine where we land, which was very interesting as well, going like this as we land. And we finally land. And I'm just sitting there, and I just hear him start laughing. And he goes, I probably should have told you I was going to do that, huh? My words were simply, yes. And to this day, she still thinks this story is hilarious. So there you have it. I'm scared of heights. I don't like deep water. Ergo, I play on a 120-yard football field for a living. Very safe.
Wow.
True story, by the way. Hashtag pillar of honesty.
Dude, I'm actually right there with you. I am not a height guy whatsoever.
Obviously.
God invented gravity for a Shut up, Adam. Shut up. I'm trying to have a moment with you. A bonding moment.
You said it.
I'm trying to have a bond. You could have sometimes you just got to let things go, you bully. Whatever.
I love you, man. Continue your story. I apologize.
I'm just saying, God invented gravity for a reason, okay?
I agree.
And I am at my happiest when my 2 feet are planted firmly on the ground. There is absolutely no reason to jump out of an airplane, no reason to jump out of a hot air balloon at 24 freaking miles in the air.
I could not agree more.
4.5-minute friggin' free fall wants to break the sound barrier. Crazy
That's
Austrian.
Insane. Good times.
Good times. Horrible times. You know who did have good times? Here goes the segue. Your Washington Redskins today snapped an 8-game home losing streak, and oh my goodness gracious sakes alive, who did big things but Robert Griffin, the third 76-yard touchdown run to slam the door shut on a Minnesota Vikings come from behind attempt, and man, the Washington Redskins looked pretty daggone good today.
Absolutely, and I feel, and it was the last thing I tweeted at the end of the game, at Adam Carriker 94, hashtag shameless plug. This, if I could speak clearly in English, this is what this team is capable of. I firmly believe that. I've believed it from day one. I know we're missing some guys, myself and Rack, so on and so forth, but this team has talent. We have chemistry. We have playmakers. And I didn't care when we lost early on. We still got a lot of season to go, and I firmly believe that this is what this team is capable of.
Well, here's the thing. Take statistics out of the equation. I want to talk to you about just the biggest thing that I saw from today, and it was actually 2 things. It was, 1, the slow start that you guys were able to overcome, and then really just march the ball down the field at will for the second, third, and fourth quarters. But more than that, how often have we seen in the past 3-4 seasons in Washington where you would build up that lead and you would inevitably let the other team back into the game and lose it late. And that did not happen today. And that was the biggest difference, because it wasn't just Robert's interception return. It wasn't just his 76-yard touchdown run. It was D'Angelo Hall coming up with the big pick at the end. It was Lorenzo Alexander with his, they call it a fumble return. In my eyes, it was an interception. It was that. And it was his other sack and a half. It was just the way that the guy stepped up and said, no, today we are coming away with the W come hell or high water. And that is exactly what happened.
I mean, I'll just start with the beginning of the game. The first 3 drives, the Vikings were inside our 20-yard line. And every time you could just tell our defense stiffened. All right, you got here, but you're not getting in. And holding them to 3 field goals, which is 9 points, versus 3 touchdowns, which is 21 points, or even 2 touchdowns and a field goal, which is 17. That is a huge difference. And that allowed our offense to get rolling. And once they got rolling, I mean, they got almost 40 points again, 38 points. So I mean, our offense can be very potent, and our defense played well the whole day, but especially in the beginning, just getting our offense a chance to get a rhythm and get going in the game was huge.
Yeah, not letting them score in the red zone is just remarkable, something that we haven't seen a whole heck of a lot in recent years either. The other big takeaway, I have never heard such loud applause for a kicker than when Kai Forbath hit that 50-yarder in the first half.
Oh, absolutely, man. He walks out there, I'm like, his first kick's going to be a 50-yarder. I sure hope he makes it, and he sure did. I mean, this guy won Kicker of the Year, Lou Groza Award at UCLA in college football, and he's off to a great start here as a Redskin.
And here's the other thing. Alfred Morris, he was coming into the game with consecutive 100-plus yard outings. Did not get to the 50-yard mark, I don't believe. I think he was held to something like 40 yards. He did have the 1-yard score. But you know what that tells me? It wasn't that he wasn't playing well. It was that the Vikings scouted him all week, and they really focused in on him and made him a priority, shutting down this shifty sixth-round pick out of Florida Atlantic.
I think the concussion deal may have worked to our advantage because I think the Vikings thought we were going to be ultra conservative with Robert. We were not going to run with him. We were going to try and maybe get him outside the pocket and keep his hits down. So they focused on Morris all that much more, and so his stats aren't as gaudy as they normally have been. But, surprise, surprise, there goes Mr. Robert, faster than just about anybody on the field, if not everybody on the field. I love how he high-stepped. Like he literally did the hurdle because he's a hurdler. He's a track guy. So I love watching that. And I think that probably played a large part into his success, especially on the ground today, because they probably focused on Morris thinking we weren't going to do much with Robert.
Did you get the impression as he's running up that sideline toward the end zone and he keeps looking back at the defender? Did you get the impression that he's just kind of toying with him? Because if the guy got actually close enough, he would just turn on that afterburner and just boo, gone.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. I remember watching him take off, and I'm like, oh, he's got that first down. Okay, now he's heading to the sideline. Oh, I think you could keep going. Keep going. Oh, he's gone. And then, as he's running, you see him looking back. And it's like, I don't think the hurdle was a show-off thing as so much as maybe clearing his legs, getting his motor going. But, he was making sure. He was kind of like toying with him. Like Dion used to do the dance back in the day. He didn't do the dance, but it was kind of like, I'll let you get and then I'll run away. Just like I'm on crutches right now, just like my little kids do right now. When they get in trouble, Daddy's like, come here. They're not coming. And then I go to get them. Well, I move like a freaking, two-legged elephant right now. And they let me get about a foot from them. Then they move away and they laugh and they smile. And I get close and they move away and they laugh and they smile. I get mad, but they're having a great time. I felt like that's kind of what Robert was doing to this poor lad today on the field.
Just having fun out there. And, boy, I'll tell you what, that offensive line opened up a number of big holes for him. Hats off to them, because coming into the season, the offensive line, everybody was saying, oh, man, this is a shoddy O-line. I don't know how, they're going to be able to protect with, this prolific rookie. I don't know why they didn't go and upgrade during the offseason. Then Jamal Brown re-injures his hip. Trent Williams has a little bit of an injury there. But Tyler Columbus has stepped up in a big way, and that entire offensive line is doing a phenomenal job in protecting this quarterback.
Well, I think people don't give this O-line credit that they deserve. We signed Will Montgomery back this year. Corey Lichtensteiger's back from injury. We signed Chris Chester last year. We draft Trent Williams. We're bringing Palumbo last year during the season when we have a few injuries. This guy's, and he's played in this system for quite a while. He played the same system up in Seattle, very similar. And so it's like people just don't give this O-line credit because other than Trent, you don't see a big name. You don't see some big name type guy, so people want to shoot holes in it. But, they played well, and they play as a unit, and that's the biggest thing. They got this cohesive chemistry going on. They work well together.
It's unbelievable. And hats off to Tyler Columbus. Comes in, and he spells for Jamal Brown a little bit last year, retains that starting job this year. And you know what? Even if Jamal Brown does come off of that PUP list and he's able to see some action this year, you're going to be hard-pressed to take Tyler off of that starting lineup just because of the way that he's performing.
Absolutely. I'll be honest with you. I think the fact that he doesn't have to see me every day in practice makes his life a little easier. So I think maybe he's a little bit fresher, and he's doing a little bit better in the games. But, seriously, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be tough with Jamal. He hasn't practiced. Tyler's been practicing. He's been playing. He's up to game speed. So it'll be interesting, but it's going to be hard to take a guy off the line who's been playing that well.
Yeah, and last thing I want to take away, the play of Lorenzo Alexander today. We touched on this a little bit earlier, but I believe he had a sack and a half to go with that fumble return there that set up the Alfred Moore or the Robert Griffin III 6-yard pass to Darrell Young in the second quarter. I mean, just what an unbelievable lights out kind of a day this guy had. Typically, his biggest contributions come on special teams. Today, he steps up, does big things on the defensive side of the ball.
Absolutely. I mean, the guy's been the special teams player of the year every year I've been here, so at least 3 in a row. Maybe more because I wasn't here before 3 years ago. But the guy this offseason, he got a nutrition plan. And if you've just seen the way he's slimmed down, if you've seen his upper body compared to when I first got here compared to last year, he has made a real concerned effort and has dedicated himself to just really getting his body in the best physical shape. And he's obviously always been a great special teams player. And I think the more and more playing time he gets on that defense, it's going to start to show up in his defensive stats and how he plays, just the linebacker position as well as special teams.
And that's why I harp so much on nutrition, because I know that I too could be special teams player of the year because of all the spinach and kale that I eat. I take good care of my body, just like Lorenzo.
There is a team out there that's very special and could be suited just for you. You're exactly right.
Hashtag be a star. All right, man. Well, let's move on. Let's go around the league a little bit. The Dallas Cowboys come up to Baltimore today, fall 31-29. The big story there: injuries to Ray Rice, the torn triceps, and Ladarius Webb. Both
Ray Lewis, my friend.
Ray Lewis. Sorry, Ray Lewis and Ladarius Webb both could be done for the year. Miami upends St. Louis 17-14. Detroit upends Philadelphia on a field goal in overtime 26-23. Browns over the Bengals 34-24. New York Jets get off the schneid. Big win over the Indianapolis Colts in a big way 35-9. Tampa Bay 38. Kansas City 10. Nobody cares. Atlanta 23. Oakland 20. Seattle. Here's an upset special. Seattle 24. New England Patriots, Tom Brady, 23. Buffalo Bills hand the Arizona Cardinals another loss, 19-16, another overtime win. And then here's the big one. Here's the one that stood out most to me. The opponent for next week, the New York Giants, 26. San Francisco 49ers 3. The 49ers heading into Sunday had outscored their opponents 79-3 in the previous 2 games, only managed a field goal in the first quarter, and that was that. Eli Manning, New York Giants, big things, 26-3. What do you take away from this week?
I mean, my big takeaways, I still, last week I said one of my big takeaways was the Niners were a really good team. I still think they're really good. The Giants are also really good, and it's like the movie. Any given Sunday, anybody can beat anybody. Anybody can have an off day. They're still a really good team. Obviously this was not their best day. Another thing, the Arizona Cardinals, they're backpedaling a little bit. They're actually backpedaling quite a bit. They start off, they're undefeated. They go to St. Louis, give up like 82 sacks, and then the Buffalo Bills come to town. They can't handle them. So it's tough. It's easy to get on a streak. It's tough to maintain it and be consistent week after week after week throughout the whole season. Now, it's not like their season is over. They're well above 500. They have a great chance to make the playoffs. It's just going to be interesting to see if they can bounce back or not from this sort of a setback. And the Jets.
Yeah.
They can score.
Who knew?
With Mark Sanchez.
Who knew?
Did Tebow play quarterback?
I believe he got in a little bit. Let me pull up the box score. I know he didn't exactly make the highlight reel.
Well, I did see the fake punt where he acted like he was going to run.
That's
and
right.
Then he threw the pass and set up a touchdown, so that was big.
One pass for 23 yards. That would have been on the punt
okay,
there.
that was his contribution. But they can score with Mark Sanchez, and I'm glad to be able to say that. The Jets are banged up all over the place. They're facing all sorts of these hurdles, and just the weight of the world has been placed on Mark Sanchez's shoulders, and I just feel for the kid. His numbers aren't that great, but, it's just tough with everyone that they're losing and they don't have right now.
Well, we'll see. I'm not 100% sold on the New York Jets. I still think that this is a team in turmoil. They're playing an Indianapolis Colts team that's still very much trying to find their identity. Lots of turnover headed into this season. New quarterback, new coach, new front office. The list goes on and on and on and on. And all of those answers aren't going to be in place when week 6 of their first season comes rolling around. So I'm not going to say that this is the biggest win of the New York Jets career or the biggest opponent that the New York Jets will face this week or this year, but 35 points on the board, still pretty daggone good. We'll take that.
That's still an NFL team and NFL defense they're going against. I have one last takeaway.
By all means.
Probably my favorite one of the day.
Please.
Dallas lost. That's all it needs to be said.
Did you hear about the debacle before we move on and talk a little bit of wrestling here on Fourth and Pain? Did you hear about the debacle with Tony Romo's conference call with the media in Baltimore this week?
I did not. What happened?
He got asked a question that he didn't appreciate. And it depends on who you ask, whether he hung up or the line just malfunctioned and disconnected. Of course, the Dallas Cowboys say, hey, this line, malfunctioned. It got dropped on Baltimore's end. Well, the Baltimore Ravens were quick to say, hey, we've been in town for, 15 seasons now. We've never once had this happen.
Never had an issue.
So it really depends on who you ask. And I remember being in the Redskins media room this week when this happened. And, of course, journalists are friends with journalists. So we, got on the horn with our guys up in Baltimore and said, well, what was the deal? They were like, Romo hung up.
What was the question?
I don't even know, and it doesn't even matter.
Well, you got to know what the question is.
I don't. I'm sure it had something to do with Jessica Simpson.
I was going to say Carrie Underwood, something of that nature.
Something like that. Who knows?
He likes blondes. Let's move on.
All right, time to talk a little bit of wrestling. Big time decision night for CM Punk. Who's it going to be at Hell in the Cell? Is it going to be John Cena or is it going to be Ryback? Who's it going to be?
It's going to be John Cena. The Ryback thing. I think we uncovered the secret plan last week. It was it's a tease. They just want to get the supreme, quick, ultimate push. The best way to do that is tease putting him in a match, not put him in there. Then everyone wants it. It's going to be John Cena.
And my other question, though, is what's this fallout going to be? Is Vince McMahon going to be back on the air? He had a prominent role last week. And are they going to continue to push the envelope? They took a big step back from that PG family-friendly kind of atmosphere, and now they're returning a little bit toward the Attitude Era. Are we going to continue to see that? That's what I want to see on tonight's Monday Night Raw. I want to see more in-your-face WWE, what made it great at the turn of the century. Yes, the turn of the century. And what will make it great, once again, a little bit more geared towards your more adult audience. Let's get those college kids engaged. Let's get those high school kids engaged. Let's get Adam and I engaged,
please,
okay?
Please.
Let's do away with the funkettes and the imaginary little Jimmy
dancing with invisible children.
We can do better than that. We can do better than that.
I don't know what more to say. You couldn't have said it any better. I will say, as to your questions, I think Vince will make a sporadic appearance. I don't think it's going to be a consistent thing, but I do think, and maybe I'm just hopeful that we're going to see they're not going to go all the way back to the Attitude Era, but maybe just a little bit more edge. Maybe take some of the straight off and just put some edge on it. That would be great.
I'd like to see a little bit more blood. Maybe bring the chairs back into the equation.
Please,
Give me a little something.
This isn't Olympic wrestling here.
No, of course not. And then the last wrestling takeaway, Adam, if I were to ask you, which is the more powerful finisher, the Brogue Kick or the Big Show's weapon of mass destruction, aka his knockout punch? Which is the more powerful of the two?
I mean, I know the answer to this because you told me what happened on SmackDown before the show, but if I did not know, I would guess a kick would be more powerful than a punch every day of the week.
You would guess that, but according to last Friday night SmackDown and a very accurate boxing style machine, the Big Show is packing 500 pounds of pressure more than Sheamus's Brogue Kick.
1,800 pounds to 1,300, I believe.
Something
is what
like
you
that,
told me.
Yeah.
Do you ever see the movie Rocky IV? The one I starred in?
Yeah.
I Must Break You?
Yes, I did. The one where he goes to Russia.
Yeah, he must not be quite as strong as Ivan Drago because his punch was, I think, 2,000. So Ivan Drago, I'm a little bit stronger than the Big Show.
I did not know that you were a Rocky guy.
Well, everywhere I go, from like middle school to here to St. Louis to Nebraska to Colorado to Washington State to Texas to everywhere I go, I'm compared to Ivan Drago from Rocky IV. And I got to be honest with you, he ain't got nothing on me, as displayed by my photos last week.
All right, well, last question before we wrap up the segment. Do you know the actor's name who played Ivan Drago?
Dolph Lundgren, come on, please.
All right, good man.
Dude's had more plastic surgery than an 80-year-old woman.
Okay, and then for the extra point, who was his female companion in that movie?
Short, blonde-haired white lady who played his wife from Russia. I don't know her name.
Wrong.
Okay.
Brigitte Nielsen, who is about as tall as you.
I did know that.
Short little blonde lady.
She
Brigitte
was dating
Nielsen.
She was dating Flava Flav for a while.
She was for a hot second.
That's
yes, she was. Yes, she was. Good on you.
Yeah, see, I know my VH1.
You watched The Flavor of Love, didn't you?
I watched my VH1 back in the day.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for Monday edition of Fourth and Pain. Be sure to check us out online, fourthandpain.com. Follow us, mandatory, on Twitter at Fourth and Pain. And on that note, thank you so very much for believing in our weirdness. I'm Chuck Carroll.
I'm Adam Carriker, largest arms on the D-line. Peace out, home skillet.